Hi, I'm Daniel Andrews, owner and creator of AndrewsFootball.com. Welcome to my Week 16 review. Now, if you're new to my channel and you haven't done it already, there's a button right down here. See it, see it, see it. Bam! Hit that button. Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth. My channel, scientifically proven to make all your wildest dreams come true. Man, what a great Week 16. Let's just dive right in. Monday Night Football. I'm not gonna lie to you. I actually thought the Vikings were gonna win this one. What an impressive win by the Green Bay Packers. What does this mean? Okay, you have three teams in the NFC that are 12-3. Three teams are 12-3. One of them doesn't even have the division locked up because they have an 11-4 Seahawks team. Of course, I'm talking about 12-3 49ers and the 11-4 Seattle Seahawks. Now, these two teams play the last game of the season Sunday night. NFL, kudos. What a great job. You couldn't write a better script here. San Francisco, if they win, they will get the 1 seed. If they lose, they get the 5 seed. And Seattle, it'll be interesting to see what seed they get. It depends on what Green Bay and New Orleans does. Now, if San Francisco loses next week and Seattle wins and the Saints and the Packers win, the Packers will get the 1 seed, the Saints will get the 2 seed. The Packers hold the tiebreaker. So if San Francisco, Green Bay, and the Saints win, it'll be San Francisco 1, Green Bay 2, Saints 3. And I said this in my previous video, the team that would be most dangerous with a bye, I think, would be the Saints due to Sean Payton's experience. But any one of these teams are going to be dangerous with a bye. Let's be very clear about that. The Minnesota Vikings, with the Rams losing, are already locked in the playoffs. They had a chance to win the North, but with this loss, all they did was secure their 6th seed. So they are going to be the 6th seed. No chances of a home playoff game, but they are in the playoffs, so anything can happen once you get in. Speaking of NFC North teams, this team's not going to the playoffs, but the Chicago Bears hosted my Chiefs. The Chiefs have an opportunity if New England loses next week to get a bye. Chicago, they're going to build in 2020, they're going to try to rebuild their team around Mitchell Trubisky. And one thing I want to say is that I'm really surprised at how many Bears fans don't understand Trubisky's going to be your quarterback in 2020. And a lot of people want to blame the Bears organization for not drafting Patrick Mahomes. And the situation between Patrick Mahomes and Mitchell Trubisky are night and day. All right, if Patrick Mahomes was drafted by the Bears, you wouldn't have the Patrick Mahomes you're seeing in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, who went to the Pro Bowl. He got to sit behind him for a whole year and learn that complex offense with no expectations. Trubisky was thrown into the fire year 1, and then his coach got fired. They brought in a new system. He's still in year 2 of a very complex system, where Mahomes is on year 3 of a complex system with an experienced backup. He doesn't have the safety net or the knowledge. There's so many things that are different between Patrick Mahomes and Mitchell Trubisky. Chris Collinsworth, a lot of people bash both Chiefs fans and Bears fans, brought up some really good points. There's a lot of similarities between these two quarterbacks. Now Mahomes obviously has more arm talent, but Mitchell Trubisky's actually a better athlete. It was funny though, the first play of the game where Trubisky ran the ball, I knew instantly that the Bears are going to lose this game, because if you're relying on your quarterback to make plays running the ball, you have problems. So the Bears really need to fix the offensive line and do a variety of things on offense. But comparing the two, it's not really fair, because Mahomes has a better coach, a better system, and Mahomes had a plan where he was just going to sit with no expectations. Trubisky was thrown right into the fire with a bad team. I said this when I broke down the Bears at the beginning of the season. Anytime you have a team that's continuously won or continuously had double-digit losses, I think it was like 5 or 6 straight years of double-digit losses. Also, and then they win 12 games. Of course it was going to drop back down, but will it improve in 2020? Keep in mind, if you're a Bears fan, Trubisky's going to be your quarterback. your best option is to build the team around Trubisky and give him a chance to succeed. And if he continues to play like he did this year, then you move on in 2021, not 2020. That's not a smart move. Chiefs fans, hey man, last 5 games, the defense has been awesome. Ever since Andy Reid's been head coach with the Kansas City Chiefs, they've had a minimum of a 5-game winning streak. They started this season 4-0. Now they've won 5 straight. Good opportunity to win 6 straight. Hopefully New England loses so they get a bye. Let's move on here. Arizona at Seattle. Arizona wins. I warned Seattle to the trap game, but Seattle still has a chance to win the West. All they got to do is beat San Francisco, and they're in. They win the West. If not, they get the 5 seed. Nothing wrong with that. With Carson being injured, they signed Marshawn Lynch. I'm not sure how much of a boost that is or not. I mean, I think they'd rather have Carson than Marshawn Lynch just because Marshawn Lynch retired. But it'll be very interesting. As a fan, I think it's kind of cool. I hope he plays, but either way, will you see him in the playoffs? Absolutely. It's just a question of how much will he be in. Seattle just had a ton of players injured. They need to get healthy this week because if they can, the winner of the week NFC East will be Seattle's first opponent in the playoffs if they don't win the West. And they can win that game. So a lot can still happen. Speaking of NFC East, I think I said West, but I meant East. Dallas at Philly. Philly can win the East simply by winning next week or Dallas losing. They didn't clinch up anything yet. Keep in mind, Philly will go to New York to play the Giants, and Dallas will host Washington. Keep in mind, if Dallas wins and Philly loses, Dallas wins the East. I'm kind of pulling for that because I kind of want to see an 8-8 team make the playoffs. Kind of fun, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Just to be clear, I don't think either NFC East team has a chance going forward in the playoffs, but once you get in, anything can happen. Oakland at the Chargers. If you watch my Patreon video, I called this. Oakland won at LA. I thought they would. I think the Raiders have a very, very bright future going into Oakland, going into Vegas. I'm sorry, Oakland. Not really. But they have a very bright future ahead of them. Remember, they got 2 first-round picks and a young, talented team going forward. I think they're a very dangerous team. As a Chiefs fan, I really kind of fear what the Raiders are doing. With the Chargers, they're going to play at Arrowhead next week. Phillip Rivers, at maybe his last game as a Charger. First off, anybody who doesn't think Phillip Rivers belongs in the Hall of Fame is just on crack. I'm probably being a little too dramatic there, but Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's very interesting offseason to see what's going to happen because I think what's interesting about the AFC West, you got the Chiefs, which look like a Super Bowl contender, the Raiders and Broncos on the rise. The Chargers are the one team that you have no idea going into 2020 if they're going to be better, if they're going to be worse, if they're a team in transition. It's a very tough thing for the Chargers because bottom line, they have the talent to be one of the top 10 teams in football. Just injuries just destroyed their season going into 2020. They try to rebound or they blow the team up. Very interesting offseason. And, speaking of a very interesting offseason, Detroit at Denver. Denver started 0-4, but with rookie Drew Lock, they've won 3 out of their last 4. And the future with the Denver Broncos looks very bright. Detroit fans now have the 3rd pick in the draft, and they're going to be a very, very interesting team. And I'm kind of going to segue here into draft talk, and I'm going to talk so much about this between now and the NFL draft start, and it looks like it's going to be like April 29th. But basically, the top 2 picks in the draft are going to be Joe Burrow and Chase Young, and probably in that order. And then there's a huge drop-off. And Detroit picks 3rd. Now, the Redskins don't have a 2nd-round pick, and they have their quarterback in play. So who's going to be their head coach is going to make a lot to do with it. But the Detroit Lions have a very, very interesting draft because they really don't want to pick at 3. 3 is like the worst position in the draft because you have those 2 players, and then there's a drop-off. And I think it's a significant drop-off. And I know a lot of Lions fans, they really want Chase Young. So very, very interesting. Our Draft talk's going to be with the Detroit Lions coming up. I'm going to talk a lot about this coming up in the future. Giants and Washington, both of these teams will have top 5 picks. Both of these teams are going to have interesting stories come draft time. And this is a fun game. It went in overtime. Daniel Jones had 352 yards passing. Saquon Barkley, 189 yards rushing. And I don't think this is enough for Pat Shurmur to keep his job, but I did think that the Redskins had a good opportunity, especially Bill Callahan, for him to keep his job. And he's been adamant in public saying he wants to stay on as head coach. But I think these two positions, you're going to have top 5 picks for both of these teams, and you already got quarterbacks in play. And there's a lot more talent on either the Giants or the Redskins than there is on the Lions. So if you're a head coach, these are two teams you really want because you're already a top 5 pick. You already got your quarterback of the future in play. There's a lot of things I think the Giants' job is much more appealing than the Redskins' job, but I think both these teams are going to be really coveted. And of course, I'm going to do a video on Black Monday when all the coaching hires or coaching possibilities are going to become available. I think both these teams will be excellent spots, and I think lots of people are really going to want to coach both these teams. Pittsburgh at the Jets. Neither one of these teams are going to make coaching changes. The Jets win. I called this game wrong. I still would have Tomlin as my coach of the year, even if Pittsburgh does not make the playoffs. With a loss here, they need Tennessee to lose, and then they still need to win at Baltimore. But keep in mind, Baltimore's going to rest all of its starters because with a win, they clinched the 1 seed. The Jets are a team going into 2020 with a bright upside. You're going to have a healthy Sam Darnold. If you remember, Sam Darnold caught mono, was out for a couple weeks. I've never heard of an NFL player catching mono. That's kind of unusual, but the defense looks really good. There's a lot of things I like about the Jets. And also, Pittsburgh still has a really good chance to make the playoffs. So a great story about the Steelers. Again, even if they don't make the playoffs, Tomlin's my coach of the year. Cincinnati at Miami. If these teams had winning records, this would be a game of the week. Went down to the last play in overtime where Miami kicked a field goal. And this is interesting because people laughed at me when I said Miami was not going to go winless and Miami wasn't tanking. They started 0-7, and now they've been 4-4 since that start. And with a win at New England, they give the Chiefs a bye. So go Dolphins! Cincinnati clinched the first pick in the draft. I'm going to be public right now. I think they're going to go with Joe Morrow. A lot of things could happen between now and April 29th, which I believe is going to be the NFL draft, at least day one of the NFL draft. But I think that maybe they all look at Chase Young because there's going to be a lot of free agent quarterbacks. Very interesting offseason, but the Bengals did clinch the first pick, and we'll talk lots of draft between basically in the next 4 months. Indianapolis at Carolina, the huge loss here. Carolina has already started interviewing coaches. They interviewed Mike McCarthy, former Green Bay Packers coach. Indy, I think, has a really bright future going into 2020. They have a lot of injuries during the offseason. Of course, Luck retiring right before the season really kind of hurt them, but they are still in good position before injuries just took this team over. There's a lot to like about Indy in 2020. Definitely a team on the rise. Carolina Panthers are a mess in 2020. Who's going to be their head coach? Who's going to be their quarterback? Where I talked about the Giants and the Redskins being appealing jobs, I don't think Carolina is. Now, Carolina has some good defensive players. McCaffrey's an MVP caliber running back. They have a lot of holes. So Panthers, very interesting 2020 offseason. Saints at Tennessee. With Pittsburgh losing, Tennessee's in control of its own destiny. They win at Houston next week. They are in the playoffs. The Saints they still need a win and can get a bye, but they need some help. They need either Green Bay or San Francisco to lose. With both teams losing, they would get the one seed. Right now, they currently have the 3 seed. It's kind of interesting because with the Saints win, they're still at seed number 3. Tennessee, even though they lost, they're still in control of their own destiny and can sneak into the playoffs. It would be interesting if they do get in the playoffs. Odds are they're going to play Kansas City, a team they already beat this year. And they've also won their last 3 games at Arrowhead, so Chiefs fans beware. Talked about this briefly already. Baltimore at Cleveland. Baltimore won, of course, and are the hottest team in the NFL. They're going to rest their starters, being that they clinched the 1 seed next week, home against Pittsburgh. I talk about this a little more on my Black Monday show, but I think Kitchens will be fired as coach of the Cleveland Browns. I warned Cleveland Browns fans that you were not going to the playoffs this year. The roster's loaded with talent, extremely undisciplined. This just looks like a bad team all around. I really think they're going to make a change at head coach. I actually think Ron Rivera would be a perfect coach. I actually think he will be the coach that they place in there. It'll be very interesting to see what the Cleveland Browns do. Nothing would surprise me, but if I had to take a guess right now, I'd say Ron Rivera would be coach of the Cleveland Browns. I think it's going to happen very soon. Jacksonville at Atlanta. Jacksonville fired GM Tom Coughlin. I put that in air quotes because he didn't have the title of GM, but basically he was the GM. He did all the drafting, all the personnel decisions. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the specifics, but once I heard what happened, it was no surprise they had to get rid of Coughlin. This probably means Doug Marone's gone after the season. And the Jaguars do have a lot of talent, but they have an unknown quarterback position. And it looks like they're going to have to move on as head coach. The Falcons, which I would have guaranteed you a few weeks ago, were going to move on from head coach after the bye. They've gone 5-2. And now with the Atlanta Falcons, I think it's a coin flip. Does Dan Quinn stay? Does Dan Quinn go? I don't know. That's the whole thing. I really don't. I think you could go either way. I blame the Falcons' fortunes more on the front office, going all in on the offensive line, overdrafting on their first 2 picks, not really helping out on the defense. But I actually have no idea what the Falcons are going to do. It really wouldn't surprise me either way. I couldn't even tell you what the smart move would be. I really wouldn't. This may be a situation with the Falcons that they may actually want to fire him, not on Black Monday, but they may want to look at things, take a week, and then let him go. It's very interesting what the Falcons are going to do with the head coach, because I think 5-2, maybe he's done enough to deserve one more chance. Saturday games, Rams at San Francisco. Great game here. A win here from San Francisco knocks the Rams out of the playoffs, and they have the 1 seed. And it's really interesting because if they beat Seattle, they've already beaten Green Bay, they've beaten the Saints, and by beating Seattle, they've beaten everybody, and they earned a 1 seed with a win. The Rams, it's very interesting what they're going to do because they gave up their first round draft pick for Jalen Ramsey to help get them back into the Super Bowl. They completely regressed. Very interesting team in the offseason. Star left tackle Andrew Whitworth is going to be 174 years old when the season ends. I'm exaggerating slightly. So it's going to be really interesting what the Rams do. I always talk about offensive line play. Last year, the Rams had the same 5 offensive starters, all 5 offensive linemen start all 16 games. This year, it wasn't even close to that, and that explains why they had a lot of problems. Aaron Donald's the best player, defensive player in the league, maybe the best player in football, period. But be very interesting to see what the Rams do, because keep in mind, as long as they've had McVay, they've just gone on straight upward. Well, this is the first time they dipped down. So are they going to plateau down? Are they going to keep dropping down, or can they swoop back up? The Rams are going to be a very interesting team in the offseason. Even though they don't have a first-round pick, they always do creative stuff. Very interesting team to follow in the offseason. And San Francisco, like I said, win and they get the 1 seed. Buffalo at New England. Buffalo played really, really good here. There's a lot of good things to look at Buffalo. This is a young team, very talented team. They are going to the playoffs, well, actually they went a few years ago, but they kind of limped in. This is a legitimate playoff team. I don't think they're a threat in the AFC, but they are a young, talented team. This is a team in the 20s that you really want to look out for because there's a lot of talent and a lot to be excited for if you're a Bills fan. One thing about New England is that with a win Sunday at home against the Dolphins, they're going to be the 2 seed. They're going to get a bye. If you remember last year, they ended the season 2-2. They actually looked better this year going into the playoffs than they did last year. I'm going to say this again. New England, the team that won the Super Bowl last year, look better week 17 this year than they did last year. And remember, as soon as they got in the playoffs, they had that bye, destroyed the Chargers, came to Kansas City, punched us right in the mouth. I know, I was at the game. Don't give me this bullshit. We win if Dee Ford wasn't offside. They ran right at us. They ran the ball right at us. We beat them in Foxborough because they weren't able to do that. But keep in mind, if the Patriots run for 174 yards or 176, whatever it is, against us again, we're going to lose that game. And it looks like we are going to play them in Foxborough, not at Arrowhead. So just remember, Chiefs fans, the Patriots limped into the playoffs last year and just flipped it up a switch. They're the only team that I would count on doing that. So Patriots get a bye. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Houston at Tampa Bay. Houston wins. They clinch the South. Trying to get the 3 seed is very important. And the reason why is if Kansas City loses and they win, Kansas City's the only NFL team that's beaten Baltimore and New England. So Kansas City could legitimately go on the road. And if Houston wins their road games and Houston plays Kansas City in the AFC Championship game and Houston has a 3 seed, Chiefs have a 4 seed, the AFC Championship game's in Houston. And monkeys may fly out of my asshole. So, but bottom line, they still have a chance for a 3 seed. So, and not only that, I think they want to knock the Tennessee Titans out of the playoffs. So I still think that's going to be a good game. Jameis Winston, 4,908 yards passing, 31 touchdowns. Those are great numbers, 28 interceptions. Not a great number, but don't let that fool you. Winston is a good quarterback. And it's going to be a very interesting story of what he does in the offseason, where he's going to go. Spoiler alert, he's going to stay in Tampa Bay. Now, so listen, hey folks, Merry Christmas! I hope everybody has a great Christmas. Every single one who's a subscriber, I love each and every one of you. But if you haven't subscribed yet, well, what the fuck are you doing? There's a button right here. See it? I blew it up! Bam! Hit that button! Become one of the greatest people on planet Earth! Have a great Christmas! Friday, I'll release my Week 17 preview. So, hey, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you Friday.